Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the Absolute, you have the Deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders.
When every single dart that is possible that you could think of could be thrown at you, how do you respond when your back is against the wall? And what if that person is Batman? This is a look at the brand new printing of Absolute Hush, and I am from Near Mint Condition. What's up, everybody? I am Dom of X, Near Mint Condition Manager. Today we're going to be taking a look again at the new edition of Absolute Hush. There were a lot of people questioning, well, was this going to be a reality? It is here, it is now, and we do have a first look at this Absolute, and something I never actually got my hands on. Just before this day, I actually received this surprisingly in the mail, and I got a lot of smiles from the person who sent it. So we're going to be taking a look at Hush. This is the front of the slipcase. I know that the book is slightly out, but this is a front look at the slipcase, which is a pencil engraving of Hush. The book, as we will see later, very much looks the same as the overlay of the slipcase. With the spine of the slipcase, you can see that there are no text or any layers added onto it. It is just Batman standing on a gargoyle drawn by Jim Lee, the same engraving that we do have for the slipcase and the rest of the book. And I guess the back of it, if you even want to call it that, front, whatever you would like to say, also has the same Hush overlay on the left-hand side this time instead of the right-hand side. Now, if we remove it from the slipcase, as all Absolutes do indeed have, we can see that the same Jim Lee with Alex Sinclair colors are on the front cover. And then on the spine of the book, we do see that we have, which is I'm 100% certain that it's also like the old printing, Batman in all white bold, Hush in gray bold, very appropriately. We do have Bruce Wayne there, Loeb, Lee Williams, which is, of course, writer, penciler, and inker. No Sinclair, which I actually am still surprised they haven't fixed, but alas. And then DC Comics, because, yes, this is a book published by Detective Comics with another Jim Lee pinup of The Dark Knight. And then on the back, we do have a penciled-in sketch from Jim Lee featuring this brand new villain that we might not have heard of before, and I'll get into that in just a bit. And this book was printed in China. I do also want to note that, yes, because I keep saying bullet logo in every single one of my overviews, there is a bullet logo, but only one here, and it is on the bottom. So this book is as logo free as you can think of, which for some people I know that they might like it, they might not like it, but that is just an observation that I did have. If we remove the slipcase from this book, in fact, let me go ahead and set this down just even for a tiny bit. And we open out the slipcase right in front of the camera. We can see that there's no engraving inside. It is just the synopsis on the left-hand side, and then creator credits on the right-hand side. I really do wish that they included Alex Sinclair in there. I feel like the Sinclair-Williams-Lee trio is just so unbreakable that I would have preferred that he was in here or not. And then, yes, DC Comics stationed in Burbank, California. And then here is a look at the Absolute hardcover itself. And this time, we do have, at least for the material on the outside, it's kind of this graphite, very rough-feeling overlay, while everything here, you can see your fingerprints. It very much is a glossy type of material that they use here. I have read through this Absolute once, and I will say there are a couple of my fingerprints already showing. And then if we flip to the spine, it is actually the same overlay and design that they used for the Dust Jacket cover designs. So it's the same Batman, Hush, Loeb, Lee Williams, DC Comics, with the exception of the Batman pinup not being there, assuming wanted to save a little bit of money in that aspect. And then backhand, it is Hush. It feels very much like you are about to open up a movie theater inside of a comic book, and I'll give him credit for that. No fancy, not fancy in terms of the aspects of the wide range, but this is as minimalist heaven, I think, as you can get, if you want to call it that. Now, where on earth are you putting this on your bookshelf? I know that some people might query as to, well, where am I going to put this standalone Batman story? Well, this standalone Batman story comes right after the Murder and Fugitive Omni that I actually don't have. Now, if you have the omnibus, if you have any one of those other books, you might pair it up next alongside to that. But if you are stacking up absolutes and also omnibuses in the same area, I would put it right before the War Games omnibus, as this Batman story does take place right before the events of, well, the War Games omnibus. But if you are just looking to put it on your bookshelf, I am 100% certain that you're not going to upset the order by anything, as again, very standalone and very much you can read it by itself and you won't be too confused as to what's happening. And what is happening in this book? Well, let's go ahead and get to it. Let's go ahead and take a look inside of the Batman Hush Absolute Edition, the 2025 edition of this book. I also do want to mention that, yes, you do get one of these ISBN code papers that are attached to every single Absolutes, and I'm going to keep it because, yes, I am an incredible weirdo, and I like having reference material by this. I do also want to mention that it is sewn binding and that there isn't any ribbon attached to this specific Absolutes. I know that some of them from DC have had those, but this one in particular, not the case. I do want to also mention that these sort of end sheets are the same in the front and back. The pencils, obviously, by Jim Lee, the president of DC Comics, somebody who I had the opportunity to talk to earlier this year. There's a look at the cover page with Selina and Bruce kissing, or Batman and Catwoman kissing, if you don't know who those characters are, of course. And then we do have here on the creators page and also the editorial information page, information as to where this was. This was over at the Donnelly printers over in China. This is the first printing of this brand new edition. Harley Quinn and Batman, with Batman also using a grappling hook, whatever he might be using that for. I do want to also mention all of the creators who are here, and it is the same creative team for the 12 issues of Hush that is all in here, including, of course, Jeph Loeb, who scribed it, Jim Lee, who drew it, Scott Williams, who finishes it and finishes almost every single one of Jim Lee's pencils if he ever needs an inker, Richard Starkings, who is the letterer, and then the colorist Alex Sinclair. Again, the Lee Williams Sinclair trio, for as long as I have ever been in comics, has just been doing the same thing throughout. Bob Schreck, of course, the original editor on these books. Here in the Absolute, we also get an introduction by DC, who did an interview with Jim Lee and Jeph Loeb back in the day to talk about their brand new book and what this title entailed and what they decided to add to it, sort of the behind the scenes aspect of it, and also working in tandem with so many different creators who have worked on it, from the Batman editor at the time, Bob Schreck, to the letterer Richard Starkings, who, if you are familiar with any comic, there is a good shot that he has probably worked on a comic that you have liked. And the same goes for some of the storytelling devices in here, and also why a thong was apparently important to Jim Lee. Very much feels, or that specific section definitely feels like the script to All-Star Batman and Robin, issue number 1 from Frank Miller. But it is a very lengthy interview, and I would definitely suggest reading it after to sort of get an idea of, well, what is this book going to entail? And obviously some of these elements have been picked up and used in the Batman 2022 movie, but I'm here to talk about Hush and less so of all of the inspirations that people drew after here. So what does this book have? What does it collect? Well, this book does indeed collect Batman 608 to 619, along with an interlude from a Wizard magazine, clocking in at 372 pages. This is Hush in its entirety. I know that a couple of people have been wondering, because Jim Lee and Jeph Loeb came back to do a 5-page Hush story that was collected in a standard size hardcover, but never made it to the Absolutes, and they are currently working on a sequel right now that has still yet to be finished. It's weird. As the time of this recording, Hush 2, or Hush 2, H2SH, is the sort of tail end of the third renumbering of Batman from issues 158 to 163, and so far that has been unfinished, but that specific 5-issue story is not collected in here. But what is collected in here besides 608 to 619 are a couple of sketchbooks and extras from Jim Lee, as this would have you. So what on earth is Hush? Why should I care about it? And why do I keep hearing it in terms of the wide scope of which Batman tales to start with? And why is this so famous? Why is this so important to the Batman mythos? And why does it keep getting reprinted? The short answer, and I honestly could end the video here, is that Jim Lee drew it and it's Batman. And obviously if you have those two together, it's going to be pretty easy as a reason to why DC has reprinted this time and time again. In fact, at the time of this recording, I believe we have had 27 different reprints of this entire series, from the first 2 hardcovers that it came out in, the standard size hardcovers that collected one half and one half of the story, to this specific Absolute. We have seen this printed in trade paperback. We have seen this printed in standard size hardcover. We've seen this reprinted in Absolute. We've seen this printed in deluxe hardcover. We have seen this printed in a noir edition. You want to talk about every single edition that DC has had, they have probably printed Hush in that specific edition. And in fact, I do believe it is the most reprinted story that DC has had in the last 25 years. And it has been 23 years, but it also has almost been 25 years before this came about. So there obviously is a pretty big importance in terms of what this book has gone through and what this book has mean. But this is also coming right after the heels of the Batman murder and fugitive era of Batman, where Bruce was anyways mischaracterized and unhandfully arrested for the death of Esper Fairchild. So this is coming right after the heels of that, and it was Jim Lee and Jeph Loeb who said, can we make Batman a monthly book, and can we make Batman into something more suitable for a palatable way for all audiences to experience Batman? And everything is divided up into these sections and chapters. It is very much, this is the quintessential 12-issue storyline. Jeph Loeb had been on Batman for plenty of stints, and obviously Long Halloween, the Dark Victory storyline that came right after it, and also multiple Legends of the Dark Knight collaborations with Tim Sale had put him on the pedestal as far as top writers were concerned. It was really hard to say no to him at the time. You want to talk about a person who had worked on X-Men. You want to talk about somebody who had a lot of prolific experiences in terms of the comic book tabloids, and also just the mantra of somebody who had experience dealing with different comic book characters and different comic book franchises from both big 2 companies. Also, at the same time, Jim Lee had, to my recollection and the way that the story goes, had finished up some of the works at Wildstorm. And of course, by this time, Jim Lee had already been an established superstar. He was already the guy who made X-Men this mainstream comic book phenomenon in the 90s, and everything from Wildcats to the creation of Image Comics. It was really hard to say no to Jim Lee. In any single book or any single property that he wanted to do it, he was there at the helm to take up that project and say, well, we're going to make this into something popular. You put two people together like that, and you have the recipe for something that will probably end up being on the top list of everybody alike. This is really the foundation for what Hush was and what it was supposed to be about. And this really is, in its own self-conscious, a story that you can pick up whenever you would like to. It's not something that requires a billion years of Batman, although we do have a lot of Batman foes and adversaries that are in this story. Batman Hush really revolves around this psychological attempt to break Batman to his extent. And we had seen stuff like that in Batman Nightfall with Bane. We've also seen extents of it, obviously, through multiple decades of Batman storylines. And what can you do to bring Batman to the edge? This book, I do not only just because it has Jim Lee's art and because Batman is in it, every single one of Batman's foes is somehow in this book. They all play an important role in the story to push Batman to the brink. But the thing is, we don't know necessarily why all of these foes are here. We have the Joker, we have Ra's al Ghul, we have the Scarecrow, we have all of these different villains that are really coming into the storyline and are the crux of why this plot is essentially getting into motion. But again, we just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And at the same time, we have Bruce and Selina sort of redeveloping their relationship, something that had stemmed again from the decades before. We have an introduction to a lot of the current status quo that we do have with some of these characters, such as Dick Grayson as Nightwing and his relationship with Batman. We also have the severing ties between him and also some other characters such as Superman, who also make their pop-up in this book. But at the heart of this, just like Long Halloween and just like through a lot of Jeph Loeb's Legends of the Dark Knight series, is this mystery. There is this mystery seeped behind that we have no idea what is going on as we decide to uncover the story bit by bit, piece by piece. What is really at the tail end of this brand new character named Hush? We don't know who they are, but what we do know is that we get little pieces of flashbacks from Bruce's life that I think are beautifully illustrated at the hands of Jim Lee. You have these sort of like painting-esque watercolors versus the regular style that Jim Lee often does and often draws. And in those flashbacks, we do get to see a Bruce Wayne who is not in the, obviously not in the current state, but we get to see how pieces of his life are being bridged together through him being young, and also this character that is introduced to us somewhere in the middle of the story. You probably already know, if you haven't read Hush yet, obviously go ahead and get a chance to read it. I'll get into some of these spoilers in just a bit. But at the heart of this is somebody related to Bruce, somebody who has been at his side for such a long time. And that somebody who has been a part of Bruce's life is also going to make their way here into this book, but it's not in the way that we think of. We do get some references to the Jim Starlin death in the family storyline, where we have a character that somehow manages to pop up. And while they might not be that character that you're thinking of, it does give Bruce sort of this reprieve as to, wait, hold on, like I thought you were dead. Are you not dead? And it is, I do find it funny that I looked at some of the reactions online to how people were describing this certain event to this character returning as like, wait, how can this character come back? And obviously a couple of years later, this character would eventually come back. But just back to my point of this severed tie between Bruce and this one friend. This one friend of Bruce has been instrumental in not only the way that he grew up, but also somebody who has been blaming Batman for everything that has happened in his life, but not in the way that you think. Obviously, when you think of these revenge stories, you think of some characters who might just want out because you accident, like in the way of Sandman, for example, where they might have accidentally killed the protagonist's very close family member. But not in the way that you're thinking of, because Batman, through all of this time, through all of this excavating and digging up of the corpse of what really is his past, finds out that the reason to why that person is mad at him actually isn't the reason to why they're completely mad at him. And that mystery is completely unfolded in the last parts and chapters of this book, where Bruce is up to a certain point. He says, well, you know, I've got you, and the strings are not the things that you might think of. And every single villain, because of this one person that Bruce has just had ties with, well, they have to rectify themselves too. And that really, I do think, is why people keep coming back to Hush at this point. It is all of those relationships that make this book what it is. And had it not been for that, I don't know if this book would be as popular as it is, but obviously it has been incredibly popular with every single person that I can think of. And that is as spoiler-free as I can make Hush out to be. It is incredibly reader-friendly. You are introduced to all of Batman's rogues galleries. We're going to be looking at some of the extras here in the back. You have all of these covers done by Jim Lee. These wraparounds. I actually had this specific variant on the wall in my room when I was in high school, not knowing that it had been from Hush. But we also do have a couple of sketch covers. And then here is another look at some of the parts in the back. We also do have an annotations in from Jim Lee and some of the explanations as to how he decided to draw or do the processes in this specific book. But yes, it is as reader-friendly as you can make it out to be. You are introduced to every single key and important character where you do not need to have read 30 issues of Poison Ivy. You do not need to have read 60 issues of Catwoman. You do not need to read Justice League issues to understand the core relationship to how Superman and Bruce Wayne are. But those are introduced in certain ways in this book where you don't have to follow any of it at all. We also do have, again, a sketchbook here from Jim Lee, taking in from some of these commissions as well. I love these parts. Lots of fours. But now Jim Lee is, because he's incredibly busy, he is the president of DC Comics. It's going to cost a couple $1,000s too much out of my wallet to ask. And we also do have some Jim Lee step-by-step process pages from the script to the regular pens before he obviously sends it off to Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair to cover over it. I also do want to mention one thing real quick. This is where we do get the modern, or the Huntress outfit that served in Chuck Dixon's and later Gail Simone's Birds of Prey run. I almost messed up my words over there, but that is the reason to why we did have that being a part of Huntress's most famous costume. They're very similar to how Savage Land Rogue has continued on. It's partly, yes, because Jim Lee drew it, and anything Jim Lee does draw is going to be popular. To Brandon and Phil, to the 20th anniversary, Best of Jim Lee, we do have some acknowledgments and also biographies here in the back, and a standing shot again of Batman with the gargoyle. Not the same one, but something very similar, and that, as they say, is Hush Hush Hush. Now, if you are looking to get this brand new character on your bookshelf, please check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more.
All right, that's going to be it from me. I am Dom of X. Please let me know down in the comments section if you're planning on picking up Batman Hush and this specific absolute. If you have missed on the previous printing of this absolute, I know it's been years, let me know down in the comment section as well. That's it from me. Please stay safe, everybody, and have a awesome day wherever you are.